Hello, beautiful friends. Thank you so much for being here on this planet as we are experiencing such incredible, blissful liberation from a system that was so old, so ancient, and we probably really got used to it. But now is a new world and the new heavens. So, today and tomorrow we will dedicate to the new instead of looking back, but we will still maybe look at some comparisons so that we know what is the old and so that we recognize the new. So as you know, we came here for this. I don't say this lightly because of all my ancient memories that I have, of all the preparation that it took, all the incredible information that we received before even embodying here on this planet. And then, of course, since childhood, receiving constant instructions so that we don't miss the target. And of course, the goal was that the Earth will never suffer again, which would mean that her planetary grids will be ready for ascension when the portals of ascension open, so that the Earth can return to her original design, which is Maravati. And that means a planet that holds really space, even though we're talking about space-time reality, energetic space for humanity to keep evolving, to keep ascending, to keep moving up the spiral. And spiral is always the design of cosmos. It is an evolutionary design. So as you know, we had the wheel. The wheel, of course, was not evolutionary. It was a recycling system that was artificial. But now we help the Earth, of course, to remember that she is actually evolving upon a spiral, and so are we with her. This really changes everything about our existence. It changes everything about life on planet Earth. When these portals open in cosmos and in the universe and in the solar system and in the galaxy, then these are really opportunities. We call them cycles. And the cycles open and close, open and close. So just like all of nature, she too, as cosmic nature, has these incredible cycles. Here we know them as seasons, but we have these seasons, of course, in the larger body of this universe, the galaxy and the cosmos. So when these cycles align, they create opportunities for blossoming. And that would be the blossoming, of course, that we call ascension, which is consciousness. And that would be the opportunity for the Earth to be lifted up. First, of course, out of the prison matrix, but then to be on her own evolutionary spiral, which is actually a natural design of cosmos. And so we came here specifically making sure that this time the planetary grids will be ready and the Earth will be able to plug into the universal grids of the divine matrix, the divine spider web, the beautiful weaving of all life, which of course then creates the oneness. And so we came here with our cosmic DNA. I remember so many, experiences where the beings were constantly making sure that the DNA is intact, because our DNA, as you've seen in some of the visuals we have here, is actually so much more than what we associated with our ancestral DNA. So our cosmic DNA is really what ties us back to source itself, to where we came from when we were created as beings, as children of God. And again, we have different qualities, so we could have, of course, different cosmic DNA. And usually it is about sound, color, and shape. So our DNA would be a geometrical field of color and sound. And depending on what type of DNA we have different color, we have different sound, and we have different shape. So when we embodied here on this planet, we were truly the freedom bringers. So by embodying on a planet that didn't have such a good, planetary grid, the planetary grid was really broken. We were kind of like the little spiders who came here to weave the new planetary grid. I know that the seers around the world who are really seeing these changes, again, they might use different vocabulary for all of this, but they are seeing the rainbow light now around the Earth. A huge transformation. That means she has her new garment of light. She has a new electromagnetic field. We see a lot of glitches in the electrical grids around the world. There are people reporting that they are seeing, a lot of like dysfunction in the electrical grid. This is all due to the new electromagnetic field that just will be strengthening, of course, because the false matrix has fallen, darkness has fallen. That doesn't mean that all people who have darkness within them are gone, but definitely that means there is nothing behind the scene supporting their, evil actions. So everything now will be about transfiguration. It's going to be about purification, more and more, bringing all back into love light. And that means, of course, inclusiveness and integration. That also means transcendence. So in the past, we were stuck in the false matrix. It worked through our physical body, and it really wanted us to be trapped in the first 3 lower chakras. In a way, when you look at us originally, we are really 6-pointed stars. The 6-pointed star is a symbol for our light body. It is also a symbol for a master being. And 1 triangle points down, 1 triangle points up. And so 2-dimensionally, that is a 6-pointed star. And of course, that is actually a design for our light body. And so in the past, we kind of started to just function in the lower triangle that was pointing down. And so the lower triangle became how the matrix really worked through us. But now we are back in our design of being fully ignited in our light bodies. So we have new heavens and we have a new earth. Now, the new earth, you might not recognize it right now around us so fully and completely. It actually is a dimension that exists, and it's completely fully established. And many human beings already actually have transferred to the new earth. It is a dimension that is filled with nature. And again, it's not just some kind of fairy tale, but I know many people have already visited. Some people get to stay, some people visit and go back. And I think our purpose here for those of us who go and visit and come back is to bring the information, to describe it really well, and the technicality of the new earth so that we know how it works. So with the changes that just took recently place, we have new heavens. What does it mean to have new heavens? Maybe this is a quote you've seen if you read the Bible. Throughout the Bible, there are many references to the new heavens and the new earth. Why is that? It is because we had that firmament around the earth. So we had the kind of the membrane that we also call the veil. And it was separating the trapped earth plus the dimension around the earth, which meant our lower astral sphere, our astral plane. It was trapped within that veil. So we could only see actually almost what we would call fake sky. Yogananda himself said that if you, from the false world, which was created by the beings of evil, if you used any science, you could never ever go beyond that veil to describe true divine reality with our scientific method. He actually said himself in the second coming of Christ that our science and the methods of science and our technologies, because they only operate within the false matrix, they can only give us evidence of the false matrix within the false matrix and never anything beyond. And the beyond could only be explored through actually incredible discipline and consciousness until now. So we too didn't see actually the real sky. We didn't see the real heavens. And even what people experience after death, they would go into actually the astral plane. And it would just be really another false world just to recycle people back, really to trap them. And so we didn't have the real heavens, but now we have the real heavens. There will be changes. It will become more and more obvious. Right now it's happening slowly, but we have even new constellations that are visible to us if we meditate and we can see them. And again, our technology, I don't think yet will be able to truly show us the changes. But when you meditate and you just really do just a little bit of meditation these days, you go into complete stillness, you will be able to much easier see all these things for yourself. So we do have new heavens, which means we have also new divine will being emanated to this new world, to this new earth, to really this planet of freedom now. Now, we will go into the detail of all of this, of course, because now it's the most important thing not to waste your time with some old stuff that is no longer applicable. So all the things about reincarnation, no longer applicable. The wheel of karma, no longer applicable. We are in a world of cause and effect. And so manifestation will be needing cause, which is our consciousness and our divine mind, and then the effect will be our manifestation. We are now in new heavens. That means we no longer have the false program of the false matrix being emanated to humanity from the fourth dimension, which means we are running so many new beautiful programs that are being transmitted to us from the stars. And these are the programs of well-being in every way, just blessings. You know, it was a big illusion that the beings who created the false matrix actually, gave to humanity, and that was the illusion of suffering and pain, as if that was natural. As Divine Mother always said, pain and suffering are not natural. They actually became normal, but they were artificially introduced so that we got trapped in the world in which we were seeking then satisfaction. It reminds me a little bit of the song, I Can't Get No Satisfaction. And that's because within the false matrix, the trap was that we would seek satisfaction. So we would seek to be satisfied in a prison, not knowing that it is a prison. So you would say that's so silly if you saw, a prisoner within a prison and the prisoner is locked up, but the prisoner doesn't know it's a prison, and then they try to find satisfaction in that prison, and when they find it, they would feel seemingly satisfied, and yet the big picture would be, hang on a second, you are not free. And so looking for those polarities of, pleasure and then having pain, trying to avoid pain, and wanting, instead something that is the opposite of it, that too was a trap. This was hardly understandable or hardly understood by, billions of people, because it didn't seem to make sense. But it actually made perfect sense if you could only see how the false matrix worked, because that was a genius trap. The illusion of freedom was a genius trap, but now we are in the world where we have to think differently, because we will no longer be artificially fed suffering and pain and difficulties. In the past, all of it, it was just how things worked out within the false matrix. So every yogi, every mystic, every meditator who was able to actually understand this truly gave us the same instructions in many different words. You can find those instructions in the Bhagavad Gita. You can find these instructions in the teachings of Yogananda. You can find the Tao Te Ching as the same instructions. You can find it in Rumi, in Sufism, constantly saying there is a field beyond the polarity. How do we get to the field of polarity? They said, don't seek the pleasure, but don't even try to avoid the pain. That doesn't make sense to a person who lived in the Matrix. Everybody would say, come on, pain doesn't feel good. Of course I want pleasure. Everybody would rather be healthy than sick. But all of these polarities were artificially introduced to actually create the constant desire and even the constant seeking of actually the one and only polarity, always just one polarity. I don't want to be sick. I want to be healthy. I don't want to be poor. I want to be rich. I don't want to be lonely. I want to be loved. And all of those polarities you can think about, it was actually the trap. But there was a field always available to us, and that was the eye of the needle. And the eye of the needle was the one in the middle. It was the most improbable opening to true divine reality. Beyond the right and wrong, there was the middle. Many people, of course, got to see this. Many mystics spoke about it. But again, it was not easy to live by because the conditions were pulling on our sleeves. The conditions of the matrix were pulling on the right sleeve and pulling on the left sleeve, saying, come this way, don't go that way, come this way, constantly moving the pendulum from right to left, giving people the constant illusion of dissatisfaction as well as satisfaction. So the eye in the middle, the little eye of the needle, was actually a portal. And that was the portal through actually the oneness of the heart. The oneness of the heart. I can think of, the Tao Te Ching is such a wonderful, wonderful book because it has the most fascinating instructions as all of teachings of Yogananda and the Bhagavad Gita, of course, and so many more texts that you might be familiar with, and I don't know them myself. But for example, in the teachings of the Tao Te Ching, of course, it is all about being in the eye of the needle, to be actually completely free. The freedom is when the pull on the sleeves is not moving us to right and left. When we are able to completely be in that stillness that is often referred to as nothingness, but also I would call it everythingness. It happens when we meditate, and these days, of course, everything will be easier and we will look at how to do it. But there is a field of energy. It's also what we would call Krishna consciousness, Christ consciousness, consciousness of oneness. Some people could call it even neutrality, but it is actually neutral and it is detached, and at the same time it is deeply loving. So sometimes there is a mistake, I think, in the way of understanding neutrality, because it feels like we don't feel a thing, but actually we feel a great love, and that love is stronger than all else. So we're going to take a look at all of this. I have a few slides here, and there's a lot to obviously share about the new world, but let's take a look at it. So first of all, it's good to know that everything about us is changing, and one thing that is changing the most, I would say, is our physical body. The physical body was fully trapped by the matrix. It was fully trapped. And when I say matrix, of course, I mean the false matrix. But knowing that we are in this new divine matrix, in the new divine web of life, so we call it matrix as the web. So in the false matrix, it operated through the body, and it was trapping us through our nervous system. It was 100% trying to convince us that what we see as reality has some power over us. But it was also a mind matrix. Not only did it trap the body, it also completely controlled the mind. Now, you could say that we have two minds that are completely different from each other. The one is the one of the false matrix. That is the mind that probably all of us are very familiar with. That is the mind that probably is still very much active right now. And that is the mind that is constantly thinking about something, and it could be satisfied, it could be dissatisfied, it could be very nice right now, or maybe it could say some things that are not so nice, it could be very random, it could wake you up in the middle of the night, you could be thinking random things, and it could also be a mind that has worries, a mind that is not filled with solutions. And so it could be looking for security in the outer circumstances. So that is the old mind of the old matrix. The new mind, the second mind, is the mind that we will be recovering right now. And it will be very easy. And it will be the mind of the divine self. In the body, in our energy field, these two minds even sit in two different energetic places. The mind of the old matrix would sit in actually our third chakra. And it would be the mind that would be the swinging pendulum, constantly, even feeling very satisfied with itself, of course. And so as long as conditions would be right, the mind would be satisfied. Or for some people, not at all, actually. But the divine mind sits actually in our upper centers, in the upper triangle, and it is connected to our intuition, our third eye, but also to our crown, where we receive actually energy from the divine self as inspiration, as solutions, as complete solutions. The lower human mind from the old matrix has a lot of problems, of course, and sees problems, identifies with problems, has worry, has fears, and all those things. And again, we all probably know that mind. But the mind of the divine self that we will be shifting into is always a complete solution to all things. The lower human mind has desires, and they are very often unfulfilled. But of course, the lower human mind always thought within the false matrix, if only I fulfill these conditions, these desires, I will be satisfied. Of course, that was the illusion of the false matrix that would constantly keep us trapped in that mind. Whereas the higher mind of the divine self, it doesn't think about things. It's not a thinking mind. It is the bringer of solutions. It is always bringing complete solutions, not because we need something, not because we desire something, not because we want something, but that mind is best described as, for example, Yogananda would describe the creator, desireless desire. Now that seems like a dichotomy. How could we have desireless desire? But the way that I would describe it is simply, it would be nice. It would be nice to create a beautiful temple for Divine Mother. It would be so nice to create this beautiful center with the gardens. It would be so nice if everybody was thriving. It would be nice. Now, to me, that is desireless desire. That is a creator who creates for the joy of simply creating in freedom. Now, this is very important, and that is the huge difference between the lower human mind of the old matrix and the new creative divine mind of God. So the divine mind of God is where our actually divine mind is. It is in the field of all solutions. And so when we are in this liberated state, in emptiness, we become a transmitter of everythingness. The old mind of the old matrix was so obsessed with problems and constantly saw them all around. It often felt, trapped by the circumstances that would surround us. It would see suffering and become one with it. It would see a problem, become one with it. And it would often feel like, I need to fix this. So fixing is also the lower matrix human mind. The divine mind actually is not one with problems. It is not one with any circumstances. It is a projector of the divine solutions without attachment to what is. It doesn't try to fix anything. It always is one with perfection. If it sees imperfection, it doesn't give any power to it, because it knows that's a trick of the old matrix. But it is a bringer of constant perfection, not because it wants to fix anything, but because it is one with itself. It is always in a state of completeness. It is always one with all that we had actually misplaced into the field of polarity. So to explain this, for example, many people would like to be healthy because they don't want to be sick. When a person is sick, they say, I don't want to be sick, I'm sick of it, I want to be healthy. That is within a polarity. But the divine mind never becomes one with sickness. It is always fully centered in the oneness of that which is good, without ever acknowledging that which is the opposite of it, because within the divine self, these opposites do not exist. These opposites only existed in the artificial duality of the false matrix. Now you see how that is not easy, right? Because we got so used to it. we've lived decades in the false matrix in this lifetime, and imagine all our ancestors that experienced the false matrix, and how actually that became so normal, and how everything was actually, that as far as we know, probably birthed in the false matrix. So the liberation is a huge difference. Now we are one with. That requires a little bit of courage, as we are the generation who said, I can do this. I can be brave enough to see beyond the veil. And of course now the veil is almost non-existent. So now we are seeing into the new heavens, onto the new earth, and we cannot be polluted by the imperfection and the residue of the ugly, which is within the false matrix. So it almost is, if you know the tarot cards, I often speak about the Thoth tarot cards, where we have the 22 archetypes in the major arcana, and the first one is 0. 0 is the Fool, and the Fool in that major arcana has actually a tiger biting his leg. But the Fool is in bliss. The Fool is smiling. The Fool is connected to the new heavens. The Fool is filled with the energy of spring, not looking at all at the tiger biting his leg. And that's a little bit like us now, because the tiger biting the leg is the residue of the old matrix. And now we need to stay centered in that spring energy, the new beginning, the new earth, the new heavens, and connect to the true divine reality, which cannot be found in any of the residue of the fallen matrix. So the power is now within us, like never before since the fall. We are returning to true divine power within us. And again, there will be still people teaching, stuff about the false matrix as if it existed. But actually now it's good to go back to where we truly are. And that is going back into the future. And that means returning to the original divine design, which of course is complete freedom. And we have been liberated from the prison. And so now how do we use our actually original, incredible divine self and the divine mind and the body? So some things remain important, and that is to find a way for your being to be filled with divine essence every day. How we fill up will be very individual. I say to myself, I see Yogananda and how perfect he is in the divine world, but we were not meant to become like someone else. We can take the tools that serve us, but we are to become the highest expression of our own being. The most unique instrument is you. And so it is about, how do I become the highest expression of my own being? And we of course can say, maybe this tool is really great and it might serve us. So for example, if we, do some chanting, we can choose whatever it is that will be helping you to be the highest expression of your own unique being, and not like someone else, even though of course we can get inspiration. And so what will fill your cup so much every day, and it could be something else every day, it really depends, where you find bliss within your own structure. Now the structure has been liberated too. We have always been designed to actually be the Holy Grail. So the Holy Grail was not to be found on the outside. The Holy Grail is to be actually realized on the inside. The Holy Grail is the shape of our light body. The bottom part of our light body is the lower triangle that connects us actually, but it's also a tetrahedron. It connects us to the planetary body. And then we have the trunk, and the trunk is what runs through the physical body. And then we have our upper opening, and that is again part of our light body. and that is our upper triangle opened up. This is the tree of life within us, with the roots, the trunk, and the crown. And this cup that is within us, the Holy Grail, is something that will be important as we move forward into more and more, of course, of who we truly are. So to be filled up with divine essence and to allow the divine essence overflow. Why is that? It is because we are in a new system. In the old system, we were very closed energy system that actually got depleted more and more and more and more. So people, as we call it aged, they would get more and more depleted of life force. Well, we are now in a new system, which is an open energy system. And the open energy system works differently. It works exactly like the tree of life. It works like the apple of life, the fruit of life. It works like this beautiful Holy Grail. So I'll describe it. Energy comes into the bottom part, into the roots, into the bottom funnel of this, Holy Grail within us. And the energy is infinite. It is coming from the planetary body that we are part of. Now it runs through all our energy channels and centers up, and it explodes like a fountain into the crown. And the crown truly is another funnel, and that suddenly becomes a fountain. Now, if you see the fountain and how the water of the Holy Spirit then flows around us as light, it actually connects to cosmos. And as it connects to cosmos, it is recharged with more energy, and then it comes back again from the bottom funnel and flows up. So that means this open energy system is constantly bringing more energy in. Yes, it is the toroidal vortex. Exactly, that's what it is. But because it's now an open energy system, it's bringing new energy in all the time. So this is basically how our light body now will work. So every day, whatever it is, paying attention, simply managing ourselves. If you are a driver, you pay attention to your fuel level, right? To your tank. You want to know, I have enough fuel to get places. And if you don't, you go and recharge. The same with our light body. So beautiful pictures you guys are posting in the chat. That's exactly how it is. So lately, we have instructions delivered to us through dream time. I think all of us, whether we remember it or not. And there is a lot of teachings we are receiving about our light body and about how it is being angelified. I don't even know if that's a word, but we are becoming truly human angels. So I always share the practices that I do, but again, it's just an inspiration. But one of the things that will remain the same for all of us, we must step into nature barefoot at least once a day, even if it's cold, even if it's raining, even if it is unpleasant. But putting the feet on the ground is actually what recharges our electromagnetic field. So because we are part of a big planetary body, in the past, of course, in the false matrix, they didn't want us on the ground with our bare feet. They made fun of people who would be hugging trees, and they gave us shoes that had plastic and blocking actually the flow of the electromagnetic field. And so if you have a practice, at least from 1 minute a day, put your feet on the ground, connect deeply with the new electromagnetic field, and get restored and recharged. Divine Mother promised us in 2017, that's a long time ago, that if we once again start using the earth as a healing resource, she will be rejuvenating us and healing us and taking care of us energetically. And so it takes just a little bit of practicing putting the feet on the ground. So this is an image that is so beautiful. I marvel at this every day. We co-created it with Daniel Holman, and we even have wonderful notebooks that will be available soon. And this is truly a big co-creation of our divine selves. So I was in Colorado meditating in the mountains in the middle of nowhere when my divine self came to me and said, I want you to create this crown of the divine self. So I sat down and started to create this circle of majestic 12. And each really circle that you see here as a sphere is the emanation of our divine self. And so you see all the beautiful multi-dimensional color, which is the 12 colors of the divine self being emanated around a person and through the person, and that creates the I am. So this is our design that now is our new design. We no longer have the 7 chakra system, which was the limitation. It was not really even available to us in the false matrix. As I said, most people operated from just the first 3 lower chakras. But now we have the 12 level system, and that creates the I am. One of the most important mantras that I believe that is so effective these days is to just repeat to yourself often in your meditation, in your third eye, I am, I am, I am. But that doesn't mean that I am this person who's sitting here. I am not the person looking at myself in the mirror. And it actually means I am the divine self that is eternal, infinite, complete, and whole. So this is the true harmony of our being, the I am. So that remains the same, that hasn't changed. Here somebody created a beautiful image of the 12 chakras that we have. Now, how do those chakras work now? So I was able to travel through all my chakras, actually, as you know, as we should all be able to, of course, because we are the multidimensional being that we are. Nobody has a, design that would be broken. We are now in a fixed design, repaired design, and that means that once again we have access to all that we are, which is this, all at once. So this all should function all at once. So in the past, in the false matrix, right, the person would barely make it out of the first 3 chakras. There would have to be a miracle when someone actually made it up into the upper chakras, and it required so much effort. But this is our true self. This is our true divine self all at once. So for example, beings that we know as Jesus, beings that we know as Yogananda, they never lost awareness of themselves. They were constantly aware of all that they are at all times without ever identifying with anything else but this. So when Yogananda would speak to you, he would speak to you as a 12-dimensional being, constantly aware, not disconnected from any part of themselves. They integrated, and they were integrated. That means there was no denial of anything, and there was no entrapment in any of the chakras. You see, for example, sexuality seems so normal in this world. It seems like that's what we do. But actually, sexuality was also artificially introduced in the false matrix so that immortal beings were trapped in the physical world of matter in the false matrix through birth and death, and just had to come back again and again, instead of instant materialization and manifestation of our bodies, which is what we will be doing. So sexuality, of course, became an incredible trap, and that was by design. The false matrix wanted everyone to be addicted to sex. It introduced things like porn, and porn, which, I think billions of people might be watching around this world, it actually has unbelievably demonic portals for life force collection and possession. Now, some people might think it's all very fun and doesn't make a big deal, but it actually is a huge deal, because all of it was created artificially to completely deplete humanity from life force. So, I think transcendence means I am all that I am. I am one with every level of my being, and that means there is no denial, but at the same time there is levity. So this being that you see here, that is you and me these days, and we operate without suppression, but we operate as a whole. So we are not driven by the first 3 lower chakras, but we also do not deny their existence. We are one with all and whole. That means the big boss is your divine self. The big boss is constantly connected to us, and the big boss is part of our structure. It's not external. So this is where God becomes actually internalized, which doesn't mean that I am God. Some people, try to say that, but actually it means I am one with, and it runs through us. It runs through the pillar of light that you see here, but it expresses itself not only in the pillar, it expresses itself as massive fire in our hearts. So our hearts are really ignited by the light of God that runs through us. So this is our new structure. It's pretty exciting. The other thing that is now, of course, working through us is, and we are trying to create it as a visualization. I'm working with some artists to help me to create the spiral. This is our first attempt. It will get better. But we now have a spiral that runs through us, and we have two spirals. That is the original design, of course, of the human being. And these spirals now run through and around the spine, and they are how we are constantly in our ascended state. So the spiral starts at the base of the spine, and it moves up, and it is ever expanding. And then we have another spiral, and that spiral comes from Source. For us, Source is actually our divine self, because that's our God self. And that spiral comes down and brings the light of God into our being. So we are constantly, you would say, I am one with God. I and my Father are one. That's exactly what this all means. And again, not to be externalized, but to be internalized. So everything is a breath away. We truly are just a breath away from all that we can possibly imagine that we are. It's pretty incredible. So we will do a little meditation now, actually. And that will be to help us actually restore the physicality. I'm gonna just speak for a few more minutes, and then we'll go into a short meditation. It will be just a few minutes. So the old matrix really wanted the body to be as possessed as possible, as poisoned as possible, as tired and sick as possible, completely disconnected from the spine, which actually was multidimensional. And so it introduced so many ways by design to diminish the human body and make it so easily controllable. We have to recognize this, of course, because in the false matrix, I look at everything that it was introduced within the false matrix, and let's say 90% of things that we knew to be our reality were deliberately introduced to control humanity, to manipulate humanity, to make us as disabled and disconnected as possible. So we have a lot of undoing, of course, through the habits that we have. But for example, they made our educational system, our calendar, our food system, our monetary system, the way that we work, the way we think about who we are as humanity, the birth and the death, the sexuality, all the chemicals, and our, of course, what they call healthcare system, which really was sick promoting system. So all of it was deliberate. It was deliberate. The beings who operated the, fallen matrix, they were psychos and not humans. So again, it's just to explain why it was so crazy and hard to believe. So now we have to undo a lot of things, but one of the things is the purification of the human genome, purification of our cellular waters, purification of our nervous system, purification of our senses, purification of the brain centers, and so on and so on. So the physical body now should again become almost, you would say, not only, of course, we call it a temple for the divine, but it is bigger than that. It is really almost, some people call it a stargate, your own personal stargate as your body. And that's because through the body, we now again have this multidimensional spine through which we can simply travel out and back go and visit our own multidimensional self, go into the highest state of our own consciousness, which would be our 12th, 12th chakra, and then come back into this body, but to constantly have the awareness of who we truly are. So each chakra is a larger opening to the divine. So each one of them has a different design. That still remains the case. And the higher we go, the more we see. It just simply gives us more visibility. But we want to be all of it all at once. So the physical body now might be asking, and for some people that means getting sick. Some people are going through transfiguration that feels like sickness. Since 2020, we've had a lot of different symptoms that were purifying the physical body. And, I personally experienced it too when we were getting transfigured, and it came with fevers and it was burning, right? And sometimes painful, but that's okay. It was transfiguration, a lot of it. Of course, some people still get really, and it's not always transfiguration, but we've experienced massive amount of transfiguration since 2020. And so we are simply cleaning the channels in the body and making all the systems available for the divine self to express itself now in freedom in this new world. So it does mean actually having new physicality. So we will do a little bit of work here. I recommend, doing breath work, being in nature, connecting to, of course, sunrise. Mainly, we're getting so much information from every sunrise. We're going to see a lot of geometries. Many people are seeing, the geometrical shape being transmitted by every sunrise. We want to be gentle on the body. So I personally think all the things that, the false matrix required, like building big muscles, is definitely the opposite of what we want to be. We want to be so much more like the Tao Te Ching describes, and that is using maybe the practices that we have like Qigong, because that is returning to our original design, where the body is all about actually being soft and flowing, so very flowing, very flexible, more like a river than something very stiff. And so we are becoming again the river of life. And, dancing and Qigong and just having fun. Now is the time to laugh a lot, breathe a lot, and dance a lot. All these wonderful things. So we will do a little meditation for the body. And there's just one more thing I wanted to mention. In the false matrix blocked our hearts. It did it by design. Didn't want anyone to have an open heart, because when you have an open heart, you can actually perceive your divine self. So it actually worked since our childhood on closing and closing and closing, making us so stiff, sitting at school, sitting in the office, and all of that. It was trying to take away our connection to nature. It was deliberately disconnecting all of us from nature. It didn't want us to experience the sense of awe and wonder. So awe and wonder will also be very, very important, actually, qualities to pay attention to within us. Am I feeling awe and wonder? And if I am, that means my heart is connecting to nature. And nature is inspiring awe and wonder. That actually means we naturally give rise to compassion, to love, to feeling connected, and to start perceiving also nature as a living being through our awe and wonder. So one thing that will remain the same, but now in a very liberated way, is that mind creates. So in the past, our mind was the lower human mind. It was also creating, but usually a big mess. But now the mind can be used to create whatever the inspiration is from the divine self, beyond the need, beyond the desire, beyond the want. It just will be nice to create. And so how to use the new mind? Number one, it will still require concentration. So we can practice when we do these meditations with Oren. It's only 4 minutes. And so we can practice to focus completely and fully on every single word or it transmits, and then to visualize every single situation, like light in the cells and transmitting the codes of light, awakening, to visualize. No right and wrong, just simply do your best. Concentrate and visualize. Now, of course, to be able to concentrate, we have to use willpower. Willpower remains important because, of course, willpower is part of our ability to focus, to bring yourself back to what you are creating. Really focus on everything you do now instead of randomly thinking about stuff, and prove to yourself your newly recovered skill to create reality. It works so beautifully. Whatever it is, that just would be nice. It would be nice. And you can work on a global level, you can work on a personal level, you can work on a somewhat collective level, but also you will receive instructions from your divine self. And so, for example, you might receive missions to fulfill something. So in the past, people would come up with different missions from the lower human mind, right? Like, this needs to be fixed, I go and fix it. But now it's much more, just be open and allow inspiration to come. And when the inspiration comes from the divine self, do it just because. So in freedom, in non-attachment, even non-attachment to outcome, because really there is nothing to be done, and yet it is done through you. It's almost like the divine lives through us and we allow it to express itself and we are lived by it. So this is complete surrender. It's amazing. So just very interesting. If you read, for example, the autobiography of a yogi, so of course Yogananda, when he was here last time in the physical body as Yogananda, he was in the false matrix. And as you know, the false matrix used our astrology to control us and to also create negative circumstances in our lives. And so the yogis knew this. And so they created something called astrological banger, right? And it would be something that they would wear on their arm by the heart, and it would be created through gold, silver, and copper. Astrological bangle, thank you, Gurga. Because they knew how to disrupt the technological programs of the false matrix. Imagine it would take metal and the combination of 3 metals to actually disrupt the transmission of these AI programs. And they knew that. They didn't want to be driven by the AI programs of the false matrix. So, technology, think about it. This is incredible. So now is the time when we no longer need the astrological banger, because no longer are these AI programs transmitted to us. Isn't that incredible? So now is the time of positive influences. So that means concentrate, focus, and just simply, astrology, the way that we have known it until now, is absolutely no longer relevant. So when you hear about all these different planets, they were actually transmitting AI programs. I don't know how they did it exactly. I've seen it myself. I've seen how these programs come. And if they had some kind of technology stationed on these different planets, and they were just transmitting to us into the matrix, and the programs were running our reality. So Feng Shui actually is relevant, and I will tell you why, but I think we will have to reinvent it a little bit, because it comes from the time of Mu. Certain things originated in Mu. Mu was a civilization before the fallen matrix. So it was during Mu that we had the invasion of these nefarious beings on planet Earth. And so Atlantis already was corrupt. But Mu originally was in a pure state of divinity, without any nefarious beings. They were in complete freedom. And what we did in Mu, actually that's where most of my memories come from, is that we often arranged our environment if we saw that the energy doesn't flow perfectly. So we would definitely see energy. We could see energy. And I don't know if some of you experienced it. I'm experiencing it these days. That you can even smell energy. You can smell light. And there is a smell, good smell to light. And so we could see and smell energy. And we were able to move things around to simply constantly allow for a better flow. So I would say Feng Shui as such, is definitely about being able to constantly create a better flow. Now, I wouldn't go back to the teachings that were delivered to us in the false matrix about Feng Shui and whatever it is, because we also didn't have the true north. And we didn't have true north because we had a tilted axis. So a lot of these teachings that were working within the false matrix, trying to help us to survive it and to be fine at least a little bit. But it was just saying, don't put your head a certain way, don't put your furniture a certain way, because it was a different world. So now I just say, inspiration from the divine self. So here when we listen to Orin was just saying your soul, your soul, your soul. But the thing is, we now also are working beyond the soul. So this is also not only a deliberation of the physical body, but it's also a huge quantum leap for our soul. And we are now operating much more from the level of the divine self beyond the soul. That's a huge change. Again, we are so much more now in a expanded state. So I would say instead of soul, we want to go to the divine self. Divine self is the highest self that we all are. And so when you do listen to Orin, I just simply replace it with, I'm going a little higher than the soul. I'm going to the divine self. Beautiful. So we will continue, we'll repeat, of course, today at 5 p.m. I will post this recording on YouTube. And tomorrow we will again do a meditation. It will be a longer meditation. We'll do 30 minutes of meditation, but also we will review how to create your perfect life now. Again, practicing concentration, willpower, and visualization, and how to thrive in this new world with the new earth and the new heavens. And also, as you know, Kristen Hoffman, we are working on some beautiful, beautiful global events that will really help Mother Earth to fully become Maravati. And so we will do a beautiful synchronized global event of playing Maravati. We now have the highest, most profound version of Maravati. I will upload it. I will share it. You can also find it on Kristen's Bandcamp. You can listen to it. And also we will release Maravati in a global event, which will be also synchronized, and it will be on spring equinox. So equinox in March for us in the Northern Hemisphere, because spring equinox will become one of the most powerful portals within the earth for the new to come in.